I will lay me down to sleep, I will awake again, because the good Lord sustains me. It's another beautiful day that the good Lord has afforded us. Lows of 13 here in the morning in Nairobi, and it is numbingly cold. In fact, it's very misty while you're actually making your way to wherever you're going here in Nairobi. And it's bound also to be hot if the sun, the sunlight actually will shine today. It will be at 23, so you know what to do. And you're bang on time for Sokoni today, where we shall be slicing and dicing what is happening as far as the economy is concerned. Fuel prices are bound to be going up because also the cost of transmission with the Kenya Pipeline Company, also the prices are going up, and that tool is bound to be reflected on your pumps soon. And also we have the bugbears, or the blowback I should say, as far as the economy is concerned. The shilling is sleeping because of the shocks that are coming from the protestations that has been going on in the country right now. That is sleeping as well. We shall be telling you that and more here on Sokoni. As you saw, right from the long shot, we have Patrick Obath up and early. Right, it's a stickler of time. Yeah, this is a hallmark of a good leader. Right, every time he beats me to the punch to be here in studio. Right, I think he should be the one who's opening the show every morning. But good to see you, Patrick.
Yeah, good morning. Glad to be here today.
Yes.
And as you're right, it's quite misty coming in.
Yeah.
The weather in Nairobi is fully July.
Fully July now.
Fully July, but with a touch of climate change. I think, yeah.
Yeah, but we have vacillations from the Met department. You know, they've been saying from around July to October there, it's bound to be cold. Yeah. Then again, we see other messages. They're saying it's bound to be hot again. So it's blowing hot and cold.
That is true, but that is a reality of climate change. Yeah? Nobody really knows the long-term effect of climate change, although they talk about this 1.5, 2 degrees, whatever it is, global warming. Yeah? But you'll have microclimates everywhere. So whilst there is, there is an attempt to predict, the models that weather people use may have to be recalibrated as climate change takes place.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
All right, tell me, also we have the issue of the fuel, right?
Yeah.
Just recently, we know what happened with the road levy that was furtively sneaked into the finance bill, right? But we see the finance bill was really quashed, but still we saw the pump prices are bound now to be going up. Still, we have the KPC and the pump prices as far as, the transmission of fuel is concerned. This is really right up your alley. You can actually tell us what is happening.
I think
just
what
briefly,
happens,
yes.
Within the pricing formula for fuel,
yes,
you have different elements, and one of them is transport. And the industry has been pushing for the last few years that there needs to be a review of those elements, because the last time they were determined was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And the costs of operations of retail stations, of depots, of even transporters, transporting fuel from a depot to a retail site, and also the main transporter, which is a pipeline from Mombasa to Nairobi and onwards. All of them have been affected by inflationary pressures. So you can imagine that Kenya Pipeline Company, their main cost is actually electricity. And they pump everything using electricity from Mombasa all the way up country with with standbys for diesel pumps. Yeah? So with that hike in cost over time, it was really due for them to revise their cost. And I think what should have happened with that, there should have been a consultation as well with everybody to see what the impact of that is. But ideally, what should be happening is that the formula for pricing fuel is due for renewal.
Is due for review. So on the 25 shillings, from the 18, right, up to 25, so that is bound to be ticking up as well.
There'll be an uptick.
There'll be an uptick.
There'll be an uptick because of the cost of KPC, but not that big, right? And I think it'll come up maybe 2 shillings, 3 shillings or something like that.
All right.
And then I think over time, obviously what happens is that the main determinant of the price is the input price, which is fuel. So if that goes down, then you're obviously going to see everything coming down based on the formula. But it's just one element of the formula that is now being changed, which is the cost of transportation.
Okay.
Of fuel.
All right, you'll give us more details in the course of the program. Good to see you. And of course, we're eagerly waiting to be joined as well by Bill Okero, who's a political economist. We shall be joined as well by Munyasi Sakwa, who is the chair of Kenya Development Corporation. He'll tell us about also the legacy loans that are bound to be let go, right? So they'll give us greater details on that as well, in what they call is in duple, right? Well, quite an economic term there. Maybe I'm not really getting it right, but we shall give you all the gritty details much later in the course of the program. But let's see how the weather will be today. You know about Nairobi, lows of 13, highs of 23. Let's see how the rest of the country will be. right, let's see what is fresh off the press today. Looking at the dailies, we begin with the Standard. Ruto hangs on to rival, that is Raila for survival. Ruto hangs on to Raila for survival. Politicians field day. Odinga's ODM party's two deputy leaders, its chairman and minority leader, get plum posts as President Ruto unveils a second batch of cabinet nominees with 5 old faces making a comeback and critics heating out at head of state for ignoring Gen Z's demand for professionals. You have a story on page 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 and 9 of the Standard today. And the winners are on the right side, according to where you're sitting this morning. From my end, it is the left side. Winners and losers, their faces are all splashed there. Hassan Joho, mining and blue economy. Wycliffe Oparanya, cooperatives and MSMEs. We have Opio and Dye, energy and petroleum. John Baddy, National Treasury. Kipchumba Murkomen, youth affairs and sports. We have Eden Dwali, environment. Soipan Tuya, defense. Davis Chirchir, roads and transport. Also, Salim Mvurya makes a comeback, trade and industry. And we have a new face there, Stella Langatsoi, gender, arts and culture. And the president said that that is opposition leaders' willingness to set aside partisan positions and interest to join a visionary partnership for the radical transformation of Kenya is a historic gesture of their patriotism. And you have the story well fleshed out for you, as I've mentioned, on those pages there. The list goes on, as you can see. Kindiki Kithure, Interior and National Administration. And of course, you can read the rest of the details and the profiles inside the Standard this morning. Ruto hangs on to Raila for survival. Enter Raila, the coalition king. Right, 4 of Odinga's allies are in President Ruto's second batch of cabinet nominees from Moi's Corporation, Kibaki's coalition government, Uhuru's handshake to Ruto's broad-based government. The veteran opposition leader has been a man not far away from the center of power, whether through the back door or otherwise, entering into some loose arrangement with the government of the day. 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 of the publication today is where you can follow this story, and the faces of the ones who've lost are also here, and the ones who've won and knocked out. 11 felled by Ruto's cabinet axe as well. Their faces are all splashed here. 11 sacked minister. It would appear are the major political casualties in President Ruto's cabinet shakeup, triggered by youth-led protest after he failed to nominate them back yesterday. You have a story on page 6 of the Daily Nation. Don't shoot them, don't shoot the messenger. Journalists protest. Media freedom under siege. Journalists yesterday took to the streets to protest against police brutality and other attacks against local and international media. You have a story on page 2 and 3 of the publication today. No teaser on top here, but on the sidebar, battling Shujaa find going tough. That is on the Lipids. Kenya succumbed to Argentina 31-12 in the opening Pool B match played at a packed stadium before going down to Australia 21-7. And also Kamala edges out triumph in new poll. That is how it appears on page 25. And also remember to get your property pull-out magazine inside the Daily Nation. That is a DN2. Star Ruto Raila new union to redefine 2027 race. That is what we have as a splash today. Nominations seem to be part of President's strategy to solidify support in parts of the country. And you have a story on page 4 and 5 of the Star today. Some of the faces as well that are from the ODM are here, save for Stella Langat. And you can follow the story inside on page 4 and 5. Farewell as Radio Africa CEO Kwarko retires. And you can see him cutting his cake there. Radio Africa founder and long-serving CEO Patrick Kwarko cuts a cake to mark his retirement during a farewell party held at Lion Place in Westlands, Nairobi yesterday. Looking on at the heads of events, that is Somoina Kimojino and Radio Africa chairman Kiprono Kitoni, and the new CEO Martin Kafafa, Star CEO Agnes Kaleche, and group head of content Paul Ilado. You can follow the story inside the publication today. Kenya Airways not facing ban by European Union. This is an apology. Remember the day before yesterday they had a splash on the front page of the Star that Kenya Airways is facing a ban in the European Union because of safety reasons. And on Tuesday, it says, we publish a story to the effect that Kenya Airways is at risk of being banned from flying to the European Union for non-compliance with safety provisions. We would like to state that this is not a correct position. The EU raised concerns about Kenya aviation safety. Overall, these discussions involve the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority and the industry as a whole. So you can read the rest of the apology there inside the Star. I don't have to do it for them. And also, dreams deferred. Teachers, police, job seekers hit as MPs okay budget cuts. That story on page 6 of the publication this morning. And journalists protest against police use of excessive force. That is on page 10 of the Star this morning. Let's see what the People Daily is holding for us. The grand hijack. What a splash. Betrayal. Shameless politicians exploit sacrifices by Gen Z, including bloodshed, in their revolution for good governance to cut deals and secure nominations into Ruto's cabinet. And that story is tucked away on page 4, 5, and 6 of the People Daily. And this is really what is also raising the ire of the Gen Zs, that blood has been shed, and of course, people will take advantage of that. The face of President Ruto's government of national unity is here, and you can read the rest of the details inside the publication this morning. We are not criminals, scribes tell the government. This is on page 2 and 3 of the People Daily today. Kalonzo, the last man standing, joining government of national unity is a betrayal of the Kenyan people, particularly Gen Z and millennials, he declares. And this, you can follow it on page 6 of the publication this morning. Ruto ameza ODM, that is what Taifa Leo is holding. Rais ateua mwenyekiti, manaibu wawili wa vinara wa chama na kiongozi wa chache bungeni kuwa mawaziri. You can follow the story on page 2. Rais William Ruto jana aliteua uongozi wa juu wa ODM, huku ikidhihirika kuwa sasa ana ushirikiano mufti wa kisiasa na kigogo wa chama hicho Raila Odinga. Naibu kiongozi wa ODM Wycliffe Oparanya jana aliteuliwa waziri mteule wa vyama vya ushirika, huku Hassan Joho ambaye pia alikuwa akishikilia wadhifa sawa na huo chamani akipewa wizara ya madini. You can follow the story on page 2 of Taifa Leo. Waziri 10 wa awali waliotemwa na rais. That story, have it also inside Taifa Leo this morning. And waandishi habari wakemea udhalimu na ukatili wa polisi. Follow the story on page 4 of Taifa Leo this morning. And keeper Ederson tayari kuaga Man City. You can follow the story on page 20 of the publication today. India firm targets 18% annual return in JKIA deal. India's Adani Airport Holding Limited. Let me just zoom in so that we can read together. It says, India's Adani Airport Holdings Limited has proposed to invest $1.85 billion to expand Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and a concession deal that, if accepted, could earn it an 18% annual return over 3 decades. Adani's privately initiated proposal to JKIA manager Kenya Airports Authority shows that the Indian firm will upgrade the airport, including constructing a second runway and a new passenger terminal, and a 30-year build, operate, transfer, that is BOT contract, at a fee to be determined by the two parties. And you can read the rest of the details about this contract that is on build, operate, transfer mode on page 2 of the publication today. I don't know if you're privy to this particle bath regarding this particular contract. I think there has been questions regarding JKIA. As you saw it, people were protesting Occupy JKIA because of this contractual agreement or other issues as well, that were saying, oh, a part of JKIA is being sold. So this was a deal.
I think there's an interesting situation in this one. Mm-hmm. It is a privately, it's a PIP, yeah?
Yeah.
So it's a privately started negotiation. So what happens is I may have a solution that nobody else has. Now, when I have that solution, the best thing I can do is to come to you and say, listen, I have this to offer. Yeah? So I offer the solution to you. You don't go out on procurement. Now, when that happens, how does the procurement law handle a privately initiated procurement? It doesn't. It doesn't have the wherewithal to do that. And I've sat on various boards in parastatals, in state corporations, where we've had that problem. Because somebody may come with a very good proposal that nobody else has. It's a proprietary arrangement.
Yes.
So you can't write a proposal. You can't write something so that you can invite others to bid when it is my personal initiative.
Yes.
So how does the procurement law in the country deal with that? And how should organizations deal with privately initiated procurement?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that is really what is under this particular discussion. What you're seeing there in terms of the content is typical.
Yes.
Where somebody will say, I want to get into a build, own, operate, and transfer, or a build, operate, transfer.
Yes.
Yeah. So because this is a BOT, which is build, operate, transfer, so they do not own it at any time. It will always be owned by the government. Yeah. So I think the key thing here is that everybody is throwing stuff at it because it is not the traditional procurement. I think we need to go below it and understand the terms. And this is where maybe, if it is true, the organization that was involved in procuring, in getting this privately initiated procurement, should have done what is expected, and that is, say, the Kenya Airports Authority should have indicated to the public that we have been approached by an organization and we are commencing a privately initiated procurement process with X. And once people know that you're doing it, right, then there'll be an interest to follow it up slowly. But here, it was done and nobody knew about it.
There was no disclosure.
There was no disclosure at any point. And that is where the Public Procurement Act is normally good, because when you're going to procure, on that basis, you actually put it out in the public. But where you've got a privately initiated procurement, there isn't a clear process by which the public should be informed at what point and so forth and so on. The merits of the case, I don't know what the details are in terms of what they're going to procure and everything. But but if you look at the high level description of redoing the whole airport, the existing one, putting in a new runway, and then building a second airport, those are things that have always been talked about for JKIA, because we need to increase the capacity. But the devil is in the details for this kind of thing. And I think that is where a lot of people are casting aspersions on this deal, because nobody really knows what it is that is being discussed. I don't think anything has actually been agreed. And one of the things that, obviously, when there is a privately initiated procurement, one has to understand who are the players behind it. Because in a doubting country like ours, people always smell, deals, deals behind the deals, and I think, especially in PIPs, it is essential that there's full disclosure of all the organizations that are behind a PIP, including any special purpose vehicles that have been put into place. Like I think one of the issues you're hearing in the news is that there is an SPV that has been put in place in Dubai. Which is then going to be the one that is going to run this thing. And the SPV has got different partners. Now, those partners who the SPV has got are also shrouded in secrecy.
We don't know who the partners are.
We don't know who the partners are. And that is where people always begin to think this is the kind of thing where you have several smoke screens that eventually may be linked to somebody in this country. And with the current suspicion because of the corruption level in this country, these PIPs that are brought up have to really be fully open to scrutiny and done through a process whereby at every stage there's full public disclosure of every stage in that kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. How then do we treat this in light of what the president also yesterday really announced, that within 90 days the government shall propose amendment to the Public Finance Management Act and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act to overhaul the institutional and operational framework of public procurement, which has been identified as the epicenter of corruption, conflict of interest and abuse of office in the public sector, with a view to deploying a digital infrastructure within 6 months. We've seen this attempt before, even with the previous administration. Remember, was it the Polycap? Not the Polycap, what was it? For the procurement, the lie detector.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
polygraph.
all the procurement, polygraph, yes.
Polygraph,
Yeah. Polygraph is a word that everyone should actually be tested through the polygraph if they're really cheating. So in light of the Public Procurement Act and what we do have, because ideally this should be a government-to-government procurement, isn't it? Or ideally, how should it be?
No, this is a privately initiated procurement. There's
but
no government.
In ideal setting.
In an ideal setting, anybody can come with an idea. It doesn't have to be government to government.
That was say it doesn't have to be.
No.
But also in terms of transparency, because we've seen the intention of government that you should actually put this thing even on a portal where everyone can see how the transaction was made. Just as you say,
Absolutely.
people have questions. These were deals which were done underhandedly. No information is given to the public. In light of what we do have as far as Article 35 is concerned of access to information. So that's, the devil is in the detail.
Actually, what needs to happen?
So before we even go to what needs to be happened, we've been here before. You remember when JKIA, I think there was a farm again that needed to overhaul JKIA.
Yes.
If you may remember, I don't forget, I can't quite remember that particular farm. Maybe you can refresh my memory if you may remember. That was also bound in controversy when we had George Moho as the chair of KIA by then.
This was around the power. It was actually the power system in the airport.
Okay.
Yeah, and they had a company that came in and they offered a solution.
And it was still from Dubai.
Yeah, it was still from Dubai.
UAE, yes, sir.
Yeah, it was from UAE. Yeah, and UAE is a great open, what do you call it? It's a financial center.
Yes.
Where a lot of organizations have decided to set up headquarters in UAE, right? Mauritius is another financial center where people are, can set up offshore companies, right? And those are the ones that are becoming popular in this part of the world. You have the Jerseys and the Barbados and the West Indies, where there are other places people can set up offshore companies.
Yes.
And you remember the Panama Papers as well, where people set up all that. So Dubai is one of those centers. So anybody from anywhere in the world can set up. And I think a lot of people are now moving to Dubai from Mauritius to set up their central companies, whereby they can now operate into any part of Africa. And with Mauritius with Dubai becoming so popular, a lot of our people in Kenya, you have found a lot of companies in Kenya have set up in Dubai. Because that allows them access into Africa. Kenya sometimes as a country, you get vilified by other countries. You try and invest in Tanzania as a Kenyan company, you're in problem. But if you go as a Dubai company, they'll welcome you with open arms. So the whole essence of transparency in these kind of things in the procurement world is key. And going to what you were alluding to earlier about the review of the Procurement Act.
Yes.
There is an organization I was involved in some years back called the Open Contracting Partnership, OCP. And what the Open Contracting Partnership does, it actually focuses on public procurement.
Yes.
And what it does is to say, when you start public procurement, you start with the users right from the start. The users understand that there is a procurement about to take place. Then you understand what the users require in that procurement process. So it's almost like a pre-public participation.
Yes.
And then you build the contracting process so that the users, the end users, are involved in checking the different elements of the procurement process. And once the contract is awarded, then the same users are the ones who are going to provide a third eye in the implementation of the contract. So that, for example, if you're building a rural road in, say, Masai area, on the way to Kajiado, yeah, then the local people will be consulted about the road. Yeah, what do you need, what kind of roads, what kind of facilities are required in that place.
Yes.
It's not the designers in the ministry who do it, right? But they consult the people, understand what the people want, and then they design the road accordingly, and the people approve that design. When they go out on contract, that is also open to them to review. And once the road is being constructed, the local people will be given a role of making sure that, you remember the area of layers being taken off roads.
Indeed.
There's many years back. They'll make sure that every layer is done and they have access to experts who can make sure that the quality is right. So that by the end of the thing, of the contract,
yes,
it has been through pure 100% scrutiny. It is trusted by everybody along the way. And hopefully with this level of public participation in that procurement, you will get the right activity at the end. And I believe that if it's done that way, then the corruption that is built into contracts, there's fat built in there, will be far offset, the savings by doing it properly and at the best cost will far offset the cost of involving the community in that particular process. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. All right, at least you've given us some good perspective there. So there need to be transparency on this. This epic of time that we're living in, this is all what the Gen Zs are really calling out for. We need transparency in all government dealings because we've been here before with the SGR.
Yes.
And we had also the current administration telling us, of course, we're laid bare as far as the contractual arrangement was concerned. So, despite the fact that there was an NDA inside there that they forgot that they had appended a signature to.
Yeah, and NDAs sometimes are required, but the NDA should be put in and everybody understands it's an NDA and why the NDA is necessary. And a lot of times NDAs are put into a contract when there are proprietary items that you do not want to reveal to the public because you may then lose your ownership of that proprietary item. Yeah. So when you do that, I discuss with you the details of, say, my software.
Yes.
So that you understand what it is. But you cannot disclose the details of my software to a third party. So that is why NDAs are necessary.
Will only come in handy.
But when you're talking about putting in a system, like an ERP, for example, that ERP procurement process should be fully open. And the only thing you put an NDA is into now the details of the
ERP
software and everything else.
Yes, indeed. All right, let me rope in Professor Dominic Manj as well. He's been part of a Sky team. But it's good to see you. Welcome back. He's the chair of a CBK pension fund. You have a new boss, right, in waiting.
Yes, we have a new boss in waiting. Nice to see you, my brother. Nice to see you again.
Good morning.
Yeah. Or I started on high note. I should have warmed you up to it.
No, it's good to be back.
Yes.
You're out of the country for a few weeks, and a lot of things changed within those 2 weeks. And the more I go to these other countries, the more dynamic politically Kenya seems to be.
Right.
And some of them are really wondering what is happening in Kenya, can it happen in other African countries? So, so as well. So, and that and I'll share 2 books here that I've been reading.
I can see you've come with some tomes here.
I've come with something here that, because we try to understand.
We'll be scholarly today.
Yeah, we also try to understand how things happen the way they are on this continent. Unless we have a wider perspective, we might not be able to really decipher the way forward for our continent. And I think that's something that we need to start focusing on as well.
So we need to sharpen our discerning. But discernment, looking on from where you're coming from, because the last time I spoke with you in Ethiopia, quite a devastation with the landslide here. Almost over 200 people have died in Ethiopia. Yeah. But you're far away from that particular region.
I'm far away. I was in Addis Ababa.
You're in Addis, okay.
Yeah, I was in Addis. There's a lot of rain right now as we speak. I also operate in the Somali region of Ethiopia. And that has been spared of this, because this is the rainy season for Ethiopia. That region flooded, Somali region flooded dramatically last year and the year before, but this time they were spared. So the country gets a lot of rain. Unfortunately, it's a very big country. Ethiopia is 1.2 million square miles, square kilometers, which is twice Kenya. Kenya is 600,000 square kilometers. So reaching some of those areas sometimes can be very, very, very difficult. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's just also get a glimpse of what stories shaped the events yesterday. You know it by now, about the cabinet formation. And the probing questions are coming to the fore. Did the president read the mood of the country? Are people happy with the choices he has made? And will this move pacify the angry, frustrated, dejected, disappointed, youthful population? What's in it for them? President William Ruto has succumbed to ODM pressure on several issues raised as an ultimatum to joining the Kenya Kwanza government. The president announced additional 10 cabinet nominees that includes members of the opposition party ODM. In his address, Ruto ordered the release of all protesters who were wrongfully arrested during the anti-government protest, and all charges against them dropped. The president also outlined key measures to tackle corruption in the public sector. KTN's senior political affairs reporter Daniel Karuki kicks off, of course, the broadcast this morning by painting the picture as it is.
President William Ruto announced his second batch of cabinet secretaries Wednesday at State House in a move that has seen opposition party in Azimio, ODM, reap big. In what seems like Raila Odinga's ODM party being decapacitated, most of the officials have been co-opted in government. ODM Deputy Leader Wycliffe Oparanya has been nominated to the Ministry of Cooperatives and SMEs. Former Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho, who is also a deputy party leader, if approved by Parliament, will be Cabinet Secretary to Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. While ODM Chairman John Mbadi, who was nominated MP, has been nominated to Treasury. Minority Leader in the National Assembly, Opiyo Wandayi, has been nominated to the Ministry of Energy. Several other CSs have also made a comeback. They include Kipchumba Murkomen, who will handle youth sports docket, Justin Muturi nominated to public service docket, Salim Mvurya, who has been moved to the trade docket, Rebecca Miano has been nominated to the tourism docket, Alfred Mutua has been nominated to Labour Ministry. Only one new face was announced, Stella Soy Langat to the Ministry of Gender.
For their commitment and reiterate my pledge to engage alongside them in a national conversation that is inclusive, citizen-centered, and aimed at consolidating and accelerating the actualization of inclusive growth and national transformation.
The president seems to have bowed to ODM pressure as he sought to bring the opposition party on board. Ruto addressing key issues raised by ODM party. ODM had pushed for all cases related to protest to be dismissed, among other demands.
I want to give the people of Kenya an assurance that our government listens to them and that for the last 1 month, I have led the government in engaging and listening to citizens from all walks of life as they express themselves in different forums.
The issue of corruption also formed a part of ODM demands. President Ruto announced 7 measures his administration will take to combat corruption. Ruto has also proposed amendments to the Evidence Act and Criminal Procedure Code, as well as other necessary changes to expedite and prosecute corruption cases within 6 months.
I have engaged with the parliamentary leadership and asked Parliament to expeditiously pass the Conflict of Interest Bill with the explicit caveat that I shall veto any bill enacted if it does not establish the highest bar with respect to accountability, integrity, and anti-corruption.
Also, he has announced that he will veto any bill enacted if it does not establish the highest form of integrity and anti-graft measures. The news briefing by President Ruto at State House was not without light moments.
Oops. That's the old list again.
At the point when eager Kenyans awaited him to start reading the list of his nominees, The list was mysteriously missing.
This is a problem of making it very confidential and not allowing many people to have a look at it.
The president's spokesman, Hussein Mohammed, had to rush and bring the document as the entire country was kept waiting.
10 additional names that President William Ruto has announced will now be forwarded to Parliament for vetting, even as the Committee on Appointments calls on public to submit memoranda with evidence on the suitability of the previous 11 that had already been announced by President Ruto. Daniel Kariuki, KTN News, State House, Nairobi.
Well, politics, they say, is a dirty game and not for the faint-hearted. Despite months of being vocal against the leadership of President William Ruto, ODM party has now ripped big after its bigwigs were incorporated in President William Ruto's broad-based government. And as Grace Nganga now reports, Azimio leader Raila Odinga's allies have backed some of the plump jobs in the cabinet.
President William Ruto's announcement of the remaining members of the cabinet has seen 4 slots given to Raila Odinga's led ODM party. The party has reaped big from the ongoing anti-government protests started by the youth under the umbrella of Gen Zs. The youth were behind the push to have President Ruto's cabinet dissolved. And although ODM, through its Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, said Tuesday that any persons who works with the government does not have the blessings of the party, it seems the members were already aware of the names to be fronted.
Within the week, as soon as tomorrow, we want to see those other appointments Baba was to forward to him. And we want all of them approved. And Honorable Speaker, if that can happen, then we are going to push this thing very fast. We cannot leave anybody out. And Honorable Speaker, let me send a warning. We want to tell people sending conflicting positions from the ODM to remember that they are on an interim position in those positions.
And further, despite the party leader Raila Odinga saying he wasn't desperate to join the Kenya Kwanza government, it seems the party was in agreement of working with Ruto as its entire top leadership appears to have benefited from the cabinet slots. The 2 deputy party leaders, Wycliffe Oparanya and Ali Hassan Joho, have been rewarded with cabinet slots, cooperative ministry and mining ministry respectively.
Hassan Ali Joho, Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy, and Maritime Affairs.
Besides the 2 deputy party leaders, the national chairman of the party, John Mbadi, was also rewarded by getting the powerful National Treasury docket previously occupied by Professor Njongo Ndongo. Not left behind is National Assembly Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi, who will now head the energy docket if his name is approved by MPs.
We have a choice to make either decision to reject over 60% of these names or give President Ruto his skunk. Let us not interfere with it. We give it to him. He has asked for it. Let us give him his cabinet. We know he's going to run the government from State House.
All these have come as a surprise to Kenyans, as the president was on record saying he won't be coerced into allowing the opposition in his government in what he used to call mkate nusu.
Waliletea fujo Moi mpaka wakapata cooperation. Wakakuja wakasumbua Kibaki mpaka wakachukua nusu mkate. Wamekuja wakazungusha Uhuru hapo mpaka wakaenda na handshake, program yetu ikapotea, BBI ikaendelea, tukazama, tukaingia kwa madeni. Sasa mimi nimewaambia hii serikali hii, mimi nawaambia hii serikali ni ya mahasla. Hakuna nusu mkate, hakuna handshake, hakuna hiyo borojo.
Jana nimeona wale wazee tulishinda. Ati hiyo mzee akisema ati he will not be coerced or intimidated to joining our government. Wewe mzee sikia. We have no business within our government. Hatuna haja na hatugojei wewe.
The issue has divided ODM, with some of his staunch stalwarts warning against ODM joining the Kenya Kwanza government.
I want to say those who are in a rush to join Ruto, that Ruto is a passing cloud. I am saying that without a fear of contradiction. I'm urging everybody that joining Ruto is a disaster, is an abomination. to work.
All eyes are now on Parliament after some of the nominees accepted the call by President William Ruto. The names will now be tabled in Parliament for vetting. Grace Nganga, KTN News, Nairobi.
Now, hundreds of journalists took to the streets of Nairobi to protest against sustained harassment by the government and police officers, as well as to defend the independence of the profession in the country. In a peaceful protest held from morning to afternoon, they presented petitions to the Acting Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, as well as the Ministry of ICT, which they want addressed as soon as possible. KTN's David Modoka participated in the demonstrations in the CBD and filed the following report.
At exactly 10 a.m., hundreds of journalists who had gathered at the heart of the country's capital of Nairobi began their peaceful march around the CBD from Kimathi Street to protest against the ongoing harassment of the media by police officers and the government. Dressed in white and black, with whistles and vuvuzelas on their lips and placards carrying various messages to the government raised high, the journalists marched in solidarity along Kenyatta Avenue, Moi Avenue, and Harambee Avenue before making a stop at the entrance of the National Police Service headquarters at Jogoo House along Taifa Road.
So here's the petition.
Here, the journalists presented a petition to the Acting Police Inspector General Douglas Kanja following the abduction of veteran journalist Macharia Gaitho by DCI officers and the shooting of Kameme journalist Catherine Wanjeri Kariuki by police officers during the Gen Z demos in Nakuru City last week. Thereafter, the march to the second destination of the day began. From Taifa Road, the journalists joined City Hall Way and briefly stopped outside the Supreme Court of Kenya, where they sang all three stanzas of the national anthem. Then, the march continued along Parliament Road, which for weeks had been blocked, following the invasion into Parliament by demonstrators last month, before coming to a third stop of the day at the entrance of the National Assembly. Here, the journalists presented a second petition to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, following the banning of some journalists from entering the precincts of Parliament earlier this month.
Majengo ya bunge ni ya umma. Yes. Ndio? Hakuna mtu anaingia hapa na bunduki, hakuna mtu anaingia na risasi. Yes. Wanakuja kuangazia na kufahamisha wananchi na kile ambacho kinaendelea. Yes. Ni vipi mnasema kwamba fulani hawezi kuingia, kwani yeye ni gaidi? We are not criminals.
We are not criminals.
We are not criminals.
We are not criminals.
Kila mwanahabari ana haki ya kuangazia habari na kufahamisha wananchi kile ambacho kinaendelea bila ubaguzi wowote. Ahadi ambayo Kingi aliweka, ahadi ambayo Weta aliweka ni lazima watimize.
Why are you blocking media from accessing the press gallery? Yes. That is unacceptable. The bare minimum is we must use the media center and we must access press gallery all. Yes. Yes.
The petition was received by a representative of Speaker Wetangula.
I want to say that all that you are bringing to us, we will respond, a speaker will respond officially and speak on the matters of free of the space, even the press.
The third and final destination was the office of the ICT Ministry, where the officers in the ministry received complaints ranging from the sponsored attacks of journalists, including journalists from the Standard Group on social media, to the delayed payment of advertising money to media houses, as well as to the government's withdrawal of adverts from media houses. The journalists called for the resignation of ICT PS Professor Edward Kisiangani, who is alleged to be behind the withdrawal of state adverts.
I have received your petition and I will ensure that it gets to him. So thank you very much.
And please, after receiving, isiende ikawekwa kwa share. We need action. We need action. We need action. Ama tutarudi Kenya tena kesho. Kwa sababu Wakenya wana haki ya kuandamana. Sisi tutaandamana tu.
And for more than 3 hours on Wednesday, journalists marched across various streets in the Nairobi Central Business District, bringing the country's capital to a standstill to pass one message to the government that the independence of journalists must be safeguarded at all costs as enshrined in Article 34 of the Constitution. David Muthoka, KTN News, Nairobi.
Those are the disconsolate voices of journalists. But also we have reactions and different opinions regarding the new cabinet that was formed by the president following the announcement of the last batch of the nominees by President William Ruto. Some have backed the nominations, while others are disappointed that some former cabinet secretaries were reappointed. Here are some of the reactions from Kenyans from different parts of the country.
Natoa kongole kwa Rais Ruto kwa kutuchagulia kiongozi wetu ambao ni sultani, na sisi kama wakazi wa Pwani tunamwamini sultani kuwa kazi hiyo anaiweza na yataendesha vizuri. Na labda tu ni kutoa wasiwasi Mheshimiwa Rais, sisi kama wakazi wa Pwani sahihi tuko tayari na wewe, hatuna shida na wewe.
Sultani ni mtenda kazi, tunakuomba sultani uonyeshe kazi inafanywa vipi. Baada ya miaka 10 ya Rais Ruto, Joho ndo atakuwa rais wetu wa hii Kenya.
Nashukuru sana kinara wetu Raila Amolo Odinga kwa shughuli ambayo ametilia mkazo sana kwa mambo ya national dialogue. Na leo nashukuru rais wetu William Samoei Ruto kwa kumteua aliyekuwa gavana wetu Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya kuwa waziri wa mambo ya cooperatives. Kwa hivyo mwaka huu najua Oparanya ataleta pesa hapa, yeye akiwa waziri wa cooperatives, na pia wale wote ambao wameteuliwa. I want to tell them congratulations in advance. We want now to give the baton kwa wabunge wetu ili waendeleze mambo ya vetting na kazi ya serikali iende mbele.
Murkomen alifanya kazi wakati walikuwa roads, na sasa amekuja kwa vijana, amekuja kwa youth. Tunajua kwamba kiwanja yote ambayo ilikuwa imefaki Murkomen atamaliza yote.
Leo Kenya yote wameungana, na inafikiria saa hii hakuna mtu mwenye atasema mimi sijachaguliwa kwa serikali. Serikali sasa imekuwa serikali ya kuungana kwa mambo yote yenye tunataka kufanya kwa Kenya mzima, na tunaomba sasa sisi sote tuunge mkono rais na maneno ya maandamano sasa iweze kupotea.
All right, and there you have it. Looking at the editorial cartoons, I have heard you clearly. And the president's here, as you can see it there, listening on maybe the X or the digital platform. But the bludgeon is down. But see what is happening is going to the recycle bin, and who are in the recycle bin. As you can see it there, we have the faces of the new appointed CSs. And Raila Odinga can be seen walking away there with the handshake, as you can see. And also, there's a new, is that CS Murkomen? I don't know why he's wearing those particular, what are these, shorts or something like that, right? That's the story that right now in the country regarding the new appointments, Gen Zs. He's listened, but has he listened? As they're trying to put it here, the question will be, is the year of a president on the ground, as I normally say, right? And you can see political unity, the cabinet reshuffle or the cabinet recycling, that should be the apropos word, and national unity, right? That is what Gen Zs want through this revolution, the face of Kenya, so to speak, and peeling the mask or peeling the orange skin there. You can see who's walking away. That's ODM's stand on joining Ruto's cabinet, right? Recently, we saw the headlining, of course, splashed there on the front page of the Standard. Raila this way, Raila that way. And there has been varied opinion and variegated opinion regarding the stand of ODM on this as well. And maybe there was a grafting of watermelon into an orange. As you can see, peeling back the orange, you can see there is a watermelon inside. And the people who have emerged from this, what do they say? And grafting of orange and the watermelon is seen as well. Let me just ask a probing question and also just invite over Vujasi Sakwa, who has been missing in action as well. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So what is your reaction? Let's see, first of all, what is your reaction to what is happening, the vacillations of ODM, even within the party, they're not really standing on the same stage as far as the appointments are concerned. The Secretary General is giving this opinion, and you can see some of ODM's operatives in the National Assembly as well giving a diametrically different opinion as well.
Yeah, I'm not a great lover of these side entrances. You get a mongrel at the end of the day. Elections are held every 5 years. One team is elected and the other team is officially in the opposition. And people can petition the government in power, as they have done, the Gen Z and so on. But these cabinet mix-ups distort policy. There will be no clear-cut policy from the presidency because it will always be some kind of convenient compromise with the new entrants. I really am uncomfortable. I think that we are going to, we are moving into movement without ideology. Ideology is important because it tells us in advance which way the government will lean on particular issues. But as it is now, I think we're just going to sort of do a maintenance process. It's not something I'm particularly crazy about. But having said that, we have a new cabinet, and the way the cabinets work, there's no one cabinet that is incompetent, as they say. They use that word completely inadvertently. I would assume. And the team we have is a good team. A lot of the team that has gone out was also a good team. So it's just how well in line they operate and how well in line they implement the policy. So I am hopeful that if there is a common voice from the top, despite the mix-up, that we will get something happening. Because we have 3 more years to the next election.
All right. Patrick, what is your reaction? We've seen the president, like looking at what Victor has drawn today, and he's been very categorical that we've heard you and we are responding. Is this a response that the Gen Z is expected? Because we can see some very droll incongruity with what is expected from the administration and what is on the ground, what people are really agitating for. First of all, they wanted a clean slate, a breakaway from the previous cabinet, and we've seen a reconstitution of old and a agitation of the old faces, the old goods that is saying, oh, revoke these, these familiar faces we've had before. Reject them.
I think the essence of communication in government is abominable for me. That's what brings out. Gen Z came out with a very clear statement. And the government, the president then says, I sack all these people in response to that because they have messed up. So that's the optic that you present, and everybody's happy that you have responded to the pressures that are coming through. So the word is, he dismisses all these people, they're sacked. And then the next thing that happens is you now go back to, you reset, back to the factory settings. And you begin a political solution to a problem that does not require a political solution. So again, it is a situation whereby there is a lack of ingenuity in terms of responding to this, what I call a distributed protest. The old way of protesting, which you always had, Raila's goons on one side and, and the ruling party's goons on one side, and they were fighting each other in the streets and doing everything else. That is what they've been used to. And if that doesn't happen, they don't know what to do. And as a result of that, they've gone back to factory research. They're doing exactly what they always used to do.
Yes.
Bring the political parties together and we have solved the problem. The problem is not solved by bringing the political parties together and then trying to do this so-called regional balancing, which is what this is happening. They have sort of tried to bring all the ethnicities in Kenya together within reason, and then saying we've also got the best minds, right? But it's all the same wine, old wine, old wine in new wineskins. Yeah, that is what is happening. And when you look at the evolution of the protests, as it were, the old school has been rethinking how they can get the protests back. And what you saw on Tuesday was the old school now saying, we are now in control. You know, there was the borders formed against government, right? There was not protesters, it was formed against government, the borders and people like that, and other people had been hired in. So at the beginning of the protests, there was no pro-government people, yeah?
Yes.
But right now, you know, a month later, all of a sudden, the pro-government people have woken up. And that suggests very clearly that they have not woken up. They have been paid to go out. If there was a genuine pro-government group, they should have been there at the very beginning. They should have come out immediately and come out onto the streets. But they never did. So what you're seeing here, and this is where you talk about the legitimacy, yeah, the optical legitimacy of a government. They are not responding to the signals properly. And unfortunately, if they don't respond properly, you're just going to get more of the same. And that's my fear with what is happening here. That what you've done is you just reconstituted in the traditional political manner, right? So now ODM is part of UDA, quote, quote. That is what is being said in the streets, yeah? So you lost the opposition completely, right? And the poor old Kalonzo and his team who have been saying, no, we are not part of this whole thing, Azimio, you know, and all that, they are left out. So ODM has gone into government, right? What does that tell the country? It tells the country that politicians are in charge, irrespective of what you as a country are doing. We politicians are in charge of this place, Namtadu. Now that doesn't augur well for the way things are going to happen. And I think this whole essence of trying to embrace the current world as it sits, where you've got a 65% of the demographic is telling you one thing, and you're sitting with the 30% and telling the 30%, you're not telling the others that we will tell you what to do, rather than saying, let us now understand what it is that you want to do and bring you in, and you can work together. So for me, the putting in of, you know, the composition of this cabinet that has been put in is a disappointment.
It's a disappointment.
It's a disappointment because I think we could have, as a country, we could have used this opportunity to create magical change. But what I'm hearing in all the pronouncements is, now I have got a team that can create the change. But the team that you're putting in, nobody believes they can create that change. And that is the problem that you're going to have in this sort of this misalignment. The optics are not right, and if the optics are not right, the reality will always be challenged.
Right, of course, if the optics are not right, the focus is not really centered.
It's not.
So you're bound to miss out and drive on a dramatically different, of course, divergence, so to speak, missing the degrees as well. And that's where we are right now. We want to take a short break, but let me see. Professor, you have 2 books. Today is going to be learning here. You can pass them on so that I can see what books are these that we want. Yeah. If there is any book that has been banned in the public domain to be here, then I'm like, what? Did we not really ban this particular book? Pass it on. Yeah, there. Okay. I like it. Why Nations Fail. The Regions of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty. And of course, that's a well-known book by Darren and James Robinson as well. Yeah, we shall be getting some nuggets of truth from there. And The Tyranny of Experts as well. Right, and this is Economists, Dictators, and the Forgotten Rights of the Poor. This is by William Easterly. So Professor is going to be, of course, giving us some salient points that is, of course, lifted from this particular two books as well. Moving on, you're watching Sokoni. We take a short break right now. And of course, the sentiments that are being raised here by our panelists regarding what is happening currently goes to show that truly the center is not really speaking to the periphery. And this is what we've been talking about. Is the president in sync with what the Gen Zs are really protesting for at the end of the day? And this new face is bound to, of course, put Gen Zs raising their hesitations and reservations with the faces as well, and also hyping up the implacable resentment that we are seeing from the Gen Zs as well. We take a short break. When we circle back, we continue with more here on Sokoni.